you can see that when you go to places that if somebody loves what they do, it's in everything. And I think, I mean, I don't have anything but a parking lot and tent, so it obviously translates through the artists themselves, which is great.
Well, the one of the biggest lessons to me was how much of an entertainment business the arts is. Yes, it's about our creation, but then the second stage of that is those patrons that are coming to see us need to be entertained, and they need to be entertained properly.
Bebop.
Artists have different incarnations in their lives, and some of us are to lucky enough to survive them. Um, at some point in my career, when I started, we didn't have social media, so it was a different ball game, and I did what I thought you were supposed to do. I approached galleries and played the game, as I called it. And I always reflect back at that period as the least creative time in my life. And I was getting burned out on it. And all along that journey in Houston, Texas, I knew of the first Saturday Arts Market. But weirdly enough, I just never wandered over. And finally, when I'm feeling this feeling, I'm not happy with my artistic career. I'm also transitioning from photography to painting. And so I wandered over and I saw a lot of my friends there. One of them, which is Mitch, who ran First Saturday Arts Market, still runs it. And I thought that looks like so much fun. That reminds me of when I first got into all of this. And I did do parking lot shows, and I loved it. And that's what fueled my career. And so it started another leg of my career. And I think people thought I'd lost my mind. But it was just so much fun, and my career grew because of it. At some point, I did First Saturday. I was popping up aggressively, but after a while, it was the only thing I did, and it got me to where I had my own studio, like freestanding studio, and I was always appreciative of that opportunity. And I'm even more appreciative that Mitch is here to talk to me today. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great, and thanks for the kudos there. I have to tell
Yeah.
you that I was really surprised that when you showed up as a painter, because I knew you're a phenomenal photographer, and I was thinking that you were gonna come to the market as with photography, but you were like, oh no, you had crazy paintings. They were fun, kind of primitive, I would call them, but I mean, they were great. They had character, and they definitely showed some talent that I was frankly surprised because I didn't know. How did you get that bug? Was
The
that
bug?
new at the time, like to paint instead of
I have always drawn. I didn't touch paint too much. That was my sister's thing. But at that point, I started in the dark room. So we made things with our hands. And that was the appeal of photography to me. When we became desk people, I started to get nauseated.
I hear you.
It wasn't the same, and so I needed to connect to the creation again. And part of it was I collaborated with Shelley Shanks, and that's what triggered it. You hear my dog in the background. but but yeah, that's what triggered it, and that was that block of time where I just didn't want to do photographs anymore. I mean, I still do. I use it to market myself. I use it to photograph my children. Occasionally, somebody will make me drag out the camera to do a gig, but um, I just was sick of it.
You have to let me tell the audience what I remember when you arrived, and you were not in familiar territory. I could tell. I don't remember all the details, but the one thing that stood
Oh,
out was you came dressed. I mean, you were there for a show, so you had a suit, tie. I don't know if you had a tie, but you definitely had a jacket on. You always wore a jacket. Sometimes it had paint, and that's not a big deal, except that this is Houston, and some of those shows that you showed up to, we reached temperatures of 85 degrees in the morning while we're setting up, and I was watching him like, how is he doing this? It's like I'm in shorts and a t-shirt, my fourth t-shirt, and it's not even 9 o'clock in the morning yet, and you would go all day long. But I,
well,
it was
to me,
great. It was a great look, and you pulled it off somehow.
to me, that's marketing.
Oh yeah,
I was the only person that did that, and in that respect, I would stand out in people's minds because it's that lunatic that was wearing a suit in 100-degree weather. Um, I was willing to make that sacrifice to make that statement to to get those fans. So no, but I was there as an artist for years until I moved here to North Texas. But I always admired what you put together, how thought out it was, because I think, and you probably have seen this, people think they can just make a market and they flood it with artists, and that's all it takes. But
all you need, all you need is a parking lot, right?
right, but it was so thought out. It taught me a lot about selling my own work because and I'm curious to pick your brain about that. When you first started, how conscious were you of that? Was it something that you evolved to? Because by the time I got to your market, it had some age to it.
It well definitely was. There was definitely a learning curve because when I started the market, I had no background other than going to the occasional church bazaar or Bayou City Art Festival, but that was much bigger than what I was looking at doing. So I over planned, and by over planning, I mean I hired a company to install tents, big, huge tents, and the more artists that signed up, we just would add on 10 feet. And I might have, I think at one point I had 80 feet of tent or 100, maybe 160. It was crazy. I was paying $1,500 for one afternoon of tent rentals. But I like planning that kind of thing and, where to put the artist and make sure there's traffic flow. And I always love that kind of thing. But what I really did that helped grow the market and help me plan out was I would ask your opinion. Like, into the show, I sent out an email like, what I do right, what I do wrong, be brutally honest. And I think I said that, and man, that was a mistake. But they, if you tell somebody to be brutally honest, they're going to be brutally honest. And some of those emails are pretty funny. But I took the advice. I just, hey, they're telling me that it should be like this. They have the experience, so I followed it. And then it was just by the time you arrived, it was probably, I'm not sure when you started doing the market, but it was at least 6 years or 7 years before you arrived that I had a chance to fine
Yeah.
tune. Excuse me. And it's still a learning experience. I'm still changing, and this year has been especially entertaining as far as changing things up. And because I wanted to have the market, but I also wanted to account for the fact that people are scared of crowds now. So how do I deal with that? but I have a much bigger parking lot. So I said, everyone gets a corner, and I may be the first event coordinator to ever say that.
Well, so capacity wise, what are you seeing from the artists? Are you, because when I was there, we were
Now,
always, yeah,
well, before in March, obviously March was the last show I did pre-COVID, and it was a very slow day. Actually, that was the day after South by Southwest canceled, so things were already hitting the fan. It was a very slow market for a March, and that's all right. That was the 16th anniversary, so
yeah.
um, to have it slow then. But so then we were out April and May. In June, we decided to come back. I asked the artist; they said yes, we're ready. And I think I had 20. So we just spread out. Everyone got a corner and 10 feet between booths, literally. And since then, it's been kind of a rainy day crowd. Remember if we had a day where it rained and it was just light crowds, but the people that shop on a rainy day or when it's cold out, they're buying. I mean, they're there. Their intent is
Yeah.
to buy art. On a really beautiful day and it's amazingly crowded, we're all excited, but a lot of those people are just checking us out, which is fine. I mean, they come back, but so we've had rainy day crowds since June.
Oh,
And the artists are now, I'm seeing more attendance. In 2 weeks on the 7th, November 7th, we'll have probably the first market since March where I have over 35. And I'm really having to spread people out for that one because I haven't had that many yet. I'm excited. It's gonna be fun, but
yeah.
we're keeping our distance. What I've done is we have a big parking lot. We moved. You probably remember the parking lot next door. I think food trucks set up over there at the time on the other side of Jen's Antiques.
Yes, yes.
So we used to park there. Now that's where the market is.
Get out.
So I have that whole
So when you're
space.
at capacity, how many artists is that?
Well, I try to keep it at 35 to 40. I mean, it's still a nice number. It works. We can stay on one lot instead of spreading out, but now, of course, we all want the elbow room. So what I've done is, since I have all that room, I eliminated the center aisles. So when you walk in, it's a big U shape, and no, you don't have to worry about anyone getting crowded or bumping into somebody. You can see them coming and stay out of the way. But next in 2 weeks, I'm gonna add a center aisle, but it'll just be single file. That makes sense. So it'll still be 15 feet between booths, like as far as an aisle space goes, but we'll have elbow room so people don't bump into each other, hopefully.
So you talked about how you built First Saturday was listening to the consumer pretty much. That's both artist and client, right? Your shoppers and your artists.
The patrons were just brutal, but yes. I
So
mean,
are you
friends and family, they definitely tell me what was going on.
so now that there's this new adjustment after you spent all these years polishing your product, are you doing the same? You're listening to the artist and patron?
Well, to be honest, more so now than I did before or have been, because, and it was mostly it's just common sense. I mean, it's a pandemic. We're told to wear masks outdoors if you can't social distance. So I'm just following what I know the public's going to want or expect. And one of the inner city, everyone here is wearing masks everywhere. So we don't really have to worry about that. But giving everyone the elbow room is a big deal. And to be honest, it looks better. The artists love all the extra room because they can we were pretty crowded, like sardines in that little space with 40 people. So this is kind of nice. It's more like a big event, but with the extra space.
Yeah.
And I think I'll probably see what I can do to keep it that way.
It's great you're making it work. Um, I miss the market. I miss being there because it was. I miss every first Saturday of the month being one of the first there with the early birds.
I still
you
have
know,
those.
yeah. Um, what? uh, This is what I'm very curious about. What made you start an art market to begin with?
Insanity. Well, at the time, let's see, it was like 2003, and I was part of an organization called Heights First Saturday, and they were the ones who started the first Saturday of the month event in the Heights. And I volunteered to help put artists in the area, and actually I kind of suggested it, and then I asked them how it was going, and they said, well, tell us, you volunteered. And I'm like, I did. So I put my foot in it. But so we placed artists all around the neighborhood, and that went pretty well for a little while. And at some point, I think I had different conversations with people about, why don't you just have a festival or a market all in one place? Or I'm not sure we called it market, but I pitched the idea to the group, and they said no. They said, that's going to take business away from us. We want the artists in our stores. I'm like, well, we can still do both. Not everyone's going to want to be outside. They were hearing nothing. So I called Martin Kaplan. He owned Kaplan's Ben Hur. That it was a big department store in the neighborhood at the time, and he was part of the group. He was one of the founders, and all I did was say, "Hey, Martin, I was wondering if I could." Yes, yeah, but yes. And I said, so should I just come over when you get it? When you have a minute, we'll talk about it. Okay, so I started the market, and I did some research, and I think that's it. I had 2 months to plan ahead, and I knew what I wanted, and I had the input I got was like, you need flowers, so I called it the flower market, flower and arts and flower market, and then I tried to get food. That didn't work out too well at the beginning because we didn't have food trucks back then, and I know that's a hard thing to imagine now, right? No food
Yeah.
trucks. We had
Well, there was a time when they weren't cool.
well, we had roach coaches. That's what we called them. They were at all the construction sites. Anyway, so it was fun. That's how it got started, and I think
So
that
pretty much
first
community service. You were
it
volunteering in your own community, and it turned into this thing.
it did, and actually, I continued my volunteer work with the Heights First Saturday group. Putting artists in the storefronts as long as I think we did it for a few more years, but the market was my business, and I expected it to last 1 year, maybe that summer, because it was so hot. I mean, it was like 105 degrees that summer, and I had big men there, and they were passing out.
Yeah.
So that's where I met Martin.
Martin DeVore.
Hello, Martin. We know you're watching.
He's clinging on to
Rumbledore.
every word. He's taking notes.
He's waiting for me to call you the Russian something. I
The
forget what.
famed Russian.
That's right.
That is where we got our names. The Overlord and the famed Russian. But that's funny. So, but okay. So first Saturday, it created other things. And is that more insanity, or
For
do you
me,
feel like you keep getting pushed into these situations where you make something like White Linen Night?
well, actually, White Linen Night was part of Heights First Saturday, and then at some point it wasn't working out because it was under the nonprofit association, and they didn't want it anymore. So I ended up with that. That's a whole nother story. I
Yeah,
did. I mean, it was not even the year, the first year, and I was getting offers to do events, and I just jumped into them. Everything looked like a great idea, and I always had the habit of saying yes. until it was too late. But as an artist, when you say yes to a project, it's not usually huge. And when you're putting on a festival or a market, it's always a big deal. There's so many different wheels turning and people to deal with. So I still say yes occasionally, but I know now what to look for where that's not going to work out. And I think more in terms of um, I don't want to compete with myself, the art market. I want to make sure that the artists that follow me, because it's my word, and if they follow me to one of these events, it's got to benefit them as well. And so I'd say the best that came out of it for me, as far as the market took care of me when things got rough. I actually worked. I stopped working full time as doing other jobs and things like that, and about 10 years ago. So it's worked out really well. But at
Yeah,
some
I mean,
point,
it's become your career.
it
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
It's more than that. I mean, I've got connection. It led me to writing. So
Mhm.
actually, what it really started was I don't remember when, maybe 2007 or eight. Somebody suggested, why don't you get into marketing? Like marketing. It's like I think at the time I was probably still printing posters and putting them up around the neighborhood. But I followed the advice and I looked into it and actually applied for a couple of positions at PR companies. And one of the referrals hired me. So I ended up being PR and marketing kind of full time. And the market was still my side gig. And it's always been an interesting journey. I, I,
Yeah.
I still take it on as a full time gig. And I've hired somebody to help me out, Anna Guzman. She's a phenomenal. I call her the social media maven, but she makes
Nice.
us look good.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to backpedal a little here because we skipped over the part where you're an artist.
Yes.
Yeah. So, how far back does that go? How long have you been
I
creating?
think I was born with a crayon in my hand. Well,
Mhm.
as children, and you have
Yep,
three now.
I
Yes.
have a few.
On video, it looks like 12,
It
but right.
feels like 20.
So I've always been creative, and like kids, and I just never lost that bug. I was always doing something creative, and when I left college, do you know my background?
Not at all. After all that the time we hung out, not really, no.
It's kind of fun. It's about as it's a roller coaster ride also. So I left college. I answered an ad in the newspaper for a sign painter, and it was a billboard company. And I literally I got the job, and I was like, which end of the brush do I hold up? Like I was actually studying art in school, but I had no concept of what they did with these billboards, and they were painted. I was like, wow, this is great. I thought it was all paper. So I learned how to paint full time. I mean, I learned how to paint with oil paints. I could do pictorials. I did cars. I mean, everything. It was all with oil paints. I couldn't believe it. And I did that for about 5 years. And in the 5 years, I advanced from not knowing which end of the brush to hold up to being a senior. I don't know what they call this. The journeyman, senior journeyman sign painter. I was in the union too, which is scary. But I think it's gone now. That whole industry has changed. But that transitioned into faux painting or decorative painting, and I had some odd jobs when I left sign painting, and but that was 15 years, I think. Yeah, and I was married at the time, and my wife was creative also, so we did the decorative painting business together, and then started the art market together. But the decorative painting is what I was doing when I started the art market, and from there that basically bankrolled it for the first few years in a way because I put all the money into the back into the market that came in.
Yeah. The, so you started it. Did you envision it becoming what it became or has become?
No, I did have I did kind of have had a slogan or motto, and it was like, what was that? Something along the lines of creating a place where artists can meet their customers in a festive atmosphere. Basically, describing an art festival, but one on one. Because I know at the time there was all these pop up galleries and co op galleries and um, the real galleries. Well, I mean, say real, like the galleries that represented a handful of artists. There was a long line to get in, and most of them really only talked to established artists who were outside of Houston. Us small potatoes, they didn't want to talk to local artists, especially if you're an emerging artist or you don't have a client base. So
See,
I was in the right place at the right time when the market started. So whether or not I had a real vision for it, the artists showed up and people were buying, and it got popular. It
what
took
you're
about six
describing
years.
there, yeah, the
Mm-hmm.
thing you're describing about galleries and local artists is what I'm talking about where I was when I came to the market. Something didn't seem right about that. The game I was having to play, and
Right.
I hated it.
It.
The
I
thing
was.
is, it's changing. Our computers, the fact we're doing this podcast has changed the game for artists. And I think about when I started and you're fed this dream, the dream has changed because you can be in your grandma's basement and make it as an artist.
Yeah, it's true.
um,
At the time when I started the market, I was also playing the game. I didn't think of it that way. It was fun because I was actually I was painting, and we were trying to get our artwork out into the world also, and we just did anything that came up. I mean, the art league had shows. We attended there. Um, I'm not sure I did any markets or any place where you need a tent, but I set up in bars a lot, restaurants, small spaces, studio spaces. And at the same time, I don't know if you were in Houston or in this art scene in 2003, 4, and 5, but you were.
yeah.
So there were studios all around Houston. I remember a couple of them downtown that were these old derelict looking buildings that had no air conditioning, and they were like 8 to 15 floors. I don't think it was that tall, but at least 8 floors, all artists. I mean, throughout the whole building, no AC.
Was that
And
Francisco Studios?
yes,
Yeah.
it was dangerous. We loved it.
There was of course, Seesaw back then was pretty raw.
Yeah.
Um, that's funny. It's funny to think back to that era.
So I was. If you look back on it now, I mean, you had the art crawl had started out a few years before in the '90s in the arts district around North downtown Houston, and then I'm not sure when, but maybe about the same time, artists were in Winter Street Studios, and one of the artists, that's when John Deal hooked up with Avenue CDC Corporation and turned Winter Street because he purchased it, and someone said, "Hey, you need to keep this an art studio. It's going to be a big thing." And so Winter Street started about the same time, I think in 2005, and at least with John Deal and his company. So
Yeah.
it's kind of fun to like see all these different groups in Houston grow with parallel. I had the art market going, then there's all the studios, and now they're It's huge. There must
Yeah.
be 8 buildings over there now.
I'm going to backtrack again. Let's go back to your art. How much do you actively create?
That's embarrassing. A lot of what I do now is writing, but I have been painting a little bit the last few months. I mean, we're locked in, can't go anywhere, nothing's open except for the grocery
Yeah.
store, and you know, I mean, it's, anyway. So I have done a couple of things, but not enough. I go in spurts, like nothing for a long time, and all of a sudden I'll knock out several. I'm not nearly as prolific as you. I mean, your tenacity and persistence in painting is admirable, and I I've thought to myself on many occasions like you need to just let go and do it like Sergio. I mean, he says it all the time. You need to just don't even think about it, just paint it. And
It's true. Um, but do you think, I mean, because you're a busy dude, do you think that makes that part of you take a back seat?
it has, but also I was never a full time painter on campus. I mean,
Mhm.
I've always been artistic, and until I started painting billboards, I was, my main focus was on cartoons. I actually had a cartoon strip at U of H. That was fun. But
Nice.
I have a strange portfolio. But so when I started the art market, where I was actually doing a lot of painting, and for those first few years, I kept going. But I'm just sporadic.
Yeah.
I do have a few things in the works now that I can't show you today, but maybe we can come back together in this virtual world, and I'll show you what I've been up to.
For sure. How important is that part of you to you? Because to me, yeah, I am prolific, but it's like breathing. If I don't do it, it's like I didn't take my vitamins.
Right. Well, I know in the creative process, it's always been about how it makes me feel versus making money at it. I just never, except for when I had jobs where I was painting, I was working for the people. Like, I did some really elaborate things as a decorative painter, but I didn't consider it my art. It was on somebody's walls. But when I do paint, I get into it. You know how it is. You're in the zone, and everything else goes away, and it feels great. And I just need to remember that when I'm like procrastinating on starting or finishing something.
I
But so
always,
it is, and if things are really crazy or stressful, I'll pick up a brush. I'll paint anything. I'll just paint canvas for white it out if I have to. But
I always thought you were the kindest person for many reasons, but I would go over to your house and you'd go upstairs for something and you'd come back and I was painting on your stuff. You,
actually, that painting is right there.
you,
One
ne-
of
you,
them.
you never yelled at me or anything. And
Let me show the audience what you're
I
talking
didn't.
about.
Well, it happened a few times. Like anytime I would come over, I'd just start painting on your stuff like it was my studio. And
So this is a unintentional collaboration between 3 people. Let's see if I can
oh
put this
wow, you
together.
have that.
So initially, Lacey
Nice.
Crawford Lacey Crawford gave me the canvas, and then you can see some of the designs behind it, and she's like, just paint over it, do whatever you want with it. And so I'm like, I did a nude. I don't know why I did a nude, but she's wearing a towel. Anyway, I didn't like it that much, and I had it downstairs that first visit, and you put your signature on it, and I like it better now, so I kept it.
Hey man, that's great. That's so funny.
So I had it actually. I think I hung it up in Public House Heights,
I remember that.
and
Yeah.
but I have it hanging up in my house now. I had to bring it down for this, but
That's
you,
funny.
I don't. I
That-
have a couple. I had a self portrait also that was really. It was probably 10 years, 15 years old. You painted that too, just a
oh
little
yeah,
bit.
nice. I don't
It
remember that.
it has your signature fingerprints on it. Maybe a handmark.
Oh man,
Cherished.
it's good. Good times.
Oh yeah. I'm not sure Lacey ever saw this. What we did to her canvas,
She's missing out.
but if you were wondering, here it is.
Yeah, that's so funny. Um, so what? Sawyer Yards, is that another thing you're doing? So
So
you started
about
another market.
it.
What's wrong with you?
I think they tricked me into it. To be honest, I really
Yeah.
think I was tricked into it. So I ended up. I think it was about 2015. I went to Eugene, Oregon, and Eugene has the Eugene Saturday Market. It's the oldest market in the United States, continuously running. It's
Well,
weekly, and I was blown away. I mean, this thing is like I'm not sure how it's running right now. Actually, they usually go indoors for the winter, but during the year, it's on two big city blocks, and they host 300 people. And there's a farmers market, and it's a maker is the seller, so the maker is the seller, which means as long as you make more than 50% of what you're selling, you can sell it there. But they also have arts and crafts, artisan pottery and fiber arts and fine art a little bit. I was like, this is great. So I'm at Sawyer Yards and I'm pitching this market idea after I was trying to steer them away from something else, I think. And they're like, yep, sounds good. It's like, yeah, but it was the same conversation I had with Martin Kaplan, years before. It was like, yes, do it. And every time I asked a question, it was like, just do it. So we started, and it's a artisan craft, curated, and heavy emphasis on foods. So cottage foods now. The laws changed in Texas where if you bake cookies in your kitchen, you can come sell them at the art market. It's kind of cool.
nice.
It's opened up a lot of doors for people that, especially now. Um, so the market's got a whole different vibe because I don't want to compete with the studio artists. So it's much more folk art. I'm trying to bring in more folk art. I like outsider art, like outsider artists like you and Dean. Dean Snyder, for those listening, not knowing who I'm talking about.
Yeah,
That's him behind me. Um, and it's coming around. It's taking some time. We kind of took a big hit over there this summer with COVID. It we definitely did not get the momentum that First Saturday had, but it's bouncing back now. Actually, that's not true. The night markets that we did at Sawyer Yards were phenomenal, and I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that Holler Brewing Company was open, and there's a Buffalo Brewery now around the corner, and they also have a outdoor movie theater that they project on the silo. So on the other side of where we are, there's a movie going on. Kind of
yeah.
crazy.
So obviously you're out doing the markets and stuff, but your day-to-day life, are you staying in or
No, I go out. I mean,
you get about?
I'm actually most of the time I'm in front of this screen. I'm
Zoom?
working
Yeah.
on the market. Um, but the downtime I've done a lot of cleaning up.
Wow.
Uh, I have a lot of stuff.
I know.
And actually, the stuff I have is in a storage unit where the end of it is the end of the market day. You put it off to tomorrow, right? But I can't do that. I have like a storage unit. I have to unload my truck, and I usually just forget about it to the next market, and then so that it kind of adds up.
Right.
So I took this as the 2020 has given me time to answer that I'll get to it someday list. And I've been slowly moving stuff out, and it's been pretty therapeutic.
Oh,
But
good.
day to day, so I write a newspaper column for the Leader. So I usually have it's not huge, but um, I write that. I also write a cultural arts piece in a local magazine called The Heights Pages. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Pretty much just local to the Heights, but it's pretty big.
I'm thinking back to Art Valet. That was you, yeah?
Hmm.
And
That's what I call the column
yeah,
in the Leader newspaper.
I guess that's what it's. Yeah, okay. I think I hadn't thought about it in a while. I just remember seeing these pieces float around.
I had two names that I used.
So it was you writing
Well,
those because it was
well
like a
I had
secret.
what
There's a
you
secret
re, what
person going around.
no what you remember first was I used the name Artist at Large,
Okay.
and that's the mailing list that I still maintain on Google. I think it's just a mailing list, a call for art. Actually, it's kind of grown to like 1,000 people. I think I'm not sure who they are, but they keep signing up. Anyway,
This is email.
yes. So
So
a lot
you
of
still hit the email list?
I'm
Yeah.
not sure if anyone's reading them, but I send them out. I send something out once in a while.
Yeah.
But what you remember as Art Valet was in 2005, I started the website artvalet.com, and it was kind of a artsy side of the art market at the time, where I invited artists to create a profile page on the site, and then Martin DeVore had his column that he wrote.
Martinizing.
What did he call it? Oh, the Tribe Report. What else?
Yes. There
That's
was the
why he
tribe
calls.
report, but then there was they were anonymous, I think, but they would go to the shows all in one night and write about that.
That was somebody else that wrote a column called Any Free Wine,
Yes.
and I think I think it was well known who she was. Eventually, I can say her name,
We
Michael Ann
can.
Boleyn.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah, I
she
didn't know
would
who
get
it was.
so for the audience here. At the time there were art shows everywhere in the studio spaces and bars, restaurants, like every week, several of them. So Martin DeVore wrote about them, what's coming up, what's going on in the tribes all over Houston, and then Michael Ann would go to the shows like we all did, and it was a humorous take on the wine. Was it any good? Did anyone get drunk? Because a
It
lot of
was
this,
great.
we were
Yeah.
crazy. We had a good
It was
time.
better than going to the shows. Just reading
read,
that. I
read
love.
read about it the next day.
Yeah.
So that was
That's so
fun.
funny.
Martin had the gossip column end of it, and then the
Mm.
crime report later.
Yeah. That's funny stuff. So, Bayou City Art Festival. Were you on the board for that, or
I
what was
still
your?
am.
You are
So that came
insanity.
about. What?
Insanity. You just
Well,
keep
that's
piling it up, Mitch. What is wrong with you?
it's not like I'm working for them. It's we have a meeting. It's fun though.
It's still work. I'm on a board here, and it you don't take that type of thing lightly. You're still doing stuff. You're still contributing, especially when you have all these other projects. So what's in the
I,
future? What else are you going to create? What?
you know, it, like a lot of people, like I keep saying I'll get to it one day list is what I've been working on. But it's certainly given me time to think about what I do want to do because you know I had like 4 months off, like well 3 months off in the art markets. It was like this is great. I haven't had a break in 16 years. Like to me, a break during the calendar year is like right now. I've got 5 weeks between markets, so I'm like, woo! I've got all these extra Saturdays. But personally, I do want to get back into painting a lot more and turn that back into my primary income, and I miss it. That
That's
needs to
great
be
to hear.
that needs to be my focus.
That's awesome. Well, I mean, do you feel like that's why you started stuff? Or
Not well, actually, it was one of the reasons I started the market.
yeah,
Way back when it was like there's no place to show our art and sell it. Let's just do something. And then I remember having artwork there at the market. It was like I don't have time for that, man. I got to get the trash out. I've got to organize these artists. And someone got a flat tire. I don't, just running around like a crazy man.
it's funny because well, I moved to this part of North Texas and not knowing a soul. But like I said, being in the art market, just watching you, the way you um, treated people, you always listened. Your um, everything was so thoughtful. It actually helped me stay alive out here where I knew no one.
Cool.
And um, so yeah, at this point, I don't know how much you know about what I'm doing now, but you know, I obviously still make a ton of art. I sell it, but I also work with a nonprofit and actually live right down the street from our one of our locations. But we've put on a few markets, and you know, yeah, I put my art there. But the more we did them, the more I was helping to organize them. Um, I feel what you're saying. It's like I had my booth there, and people were like, "Did you sell anything?" I'm like, I didn't have time. I was talking to people, you know. I
this
kept.
this is how it is for me. Here's my to-do list for the day. It's like several pages. Like, what am I doing here? But I always am amazed at how much more there is to do that than when you go in the morning like I got this, and then it's like 1 o'clock, and I'm still like I think I'm done, and then you start packing up.
Yeah,
I
it's all
it's
work.
fun though. But my favorite,
Well,
but my focus, and I appreciate you saying that. Um, I don't think about that, but my focus is really to make sure that when you get there, no matter what level of artist you are or whatever, like my job is to make sure that you can connect to the public. I don't want you to have any issues, outside of your walls. I mean, it should be smooth.
I
So
think
that's
anyone.
my focus.
Yeah, no, I think anyone that has been through your markets feels that. I because that's not the case everywhere. It's very almost. I would say it's rare that an entity that's running something is actually taking care of the artist. We're
I,
very
I am one.
right. Well, and sometimes they are run by other artists, but they still don't take care of their own. And that to me is like unforgivable.
I think I think the markets and shows that I am associated with or that I've visited or see, and if you look or if you have a chance to find out, the people who start them, and this is my case, we had a vision bigger than ourselves. I mean, I don't want to sound too philosophical about it, but I was not thinking about myself when I started the market. I was thinking about a market. I could see it. I could see the tents and the people coming and going and all the exhibitors selling their work. And that was my goal. That's what I want. I had an end game, and that was it. And no matter what, I had to see that happen. And I was doing fine at the time, so I wasn't too concerned about making money. Um, just breaking even, which turned out not to be the best way to start a business, but it worked out eventually. But you can
Yeah.
see that when you go to places that if somebody loves what they do, it's in everything. And I think, I mean, I don't have anything but a parking lot and tent, so it obviously translates through the artists themselves, which is great because that's my goal. And if
Well,
I can keep you guys happy, I'll be successful too.
the one of the biggest lessons to me was how much of an entertainment business the arts is. Yes, it's about our creation, but then the second stage of that is those patrons that are coming to see us need to be entertained, and they need to be entertained properly. I always, and this is a pet peeve, when I go to a market and the music's too loud
Oh yeah,
and you're there as a vendor trying to yell at somebody how meaningful this piece behind me is. It's about my grandfather who died, and and you know what I mean.
and I'm keeping notes on the side. This is one of the things I'm working on that I'm comfortable talking about. Well, I have a few secret projects I'm working on, kind of. No, for real. But one,
Yeah, fair enough.
I keep notes, and I've got some crazy stories. Doing these markets. I'm sure. There's a website, a Facebook group called.
Now I'm scared.
There's a Facebook group called "Shit Overheard" at the festival or something like that,
Yeah.
and it hasn't been that active this year. But I mean, it's everything people ask you at a show, like, you know, did you paint that? And you're sitting in your tent painting,
My
well, my
friends,
3-year-old could do that.
my
Just
artist here, we have an artist bingo card of things that
yes,
will get asked, and it's become a drinking game.
that sounds dangerous. You would,
Man.
excuse me, that could be a really fun show, huh? We've had bingo games. I see. Well, because we have the Facebook group for the artists, and I see them post the cards for all the big shows. But they probably get quite a few scores at my market also.
Yeah.
It's fun. We have some characters. I'm not sure what it is, but at events, people like to just dress up or do something wacky.
Yeah.
It's
Well, I mean,
entertaining.
as I said, it's entertainment. This is time out, and what I liked about First Saturday is that it was time out for the artists too. I looked forward to that time. Most markets, I do not. I'm doing them because I need to get out there. But I know, like one thing for sure is no one, no artist was left on the ground ever.
Oh,
And
at my place?
yeah,
Yeah,
you were the last one out of there.
I am the captain.
Yeah, well, as it should be. You brought these people in. You're responsible, and it's people don't always take that responsibility. So, so kudos. I just
Thank you.
came here to brag on you because
Oh,
you were an important part of my art career, and thank you.
you're welcome. Thank you.
And well, I
Now,
don't know for what, but
on that note, one of the
vandalizing your work.
one of the strange bonuses of being in the art world in my position is sometimes artists forget to take their work home.
Dude, where'd you get that?
You left it at one of the art markets, and I kept it.
Really?
I don't think you paid that day or something, so you said this was going to be your payment, so I kept it.
Okay.
And
And I'm sorry about that. Yeah, when I left, it was weird times. I was not doing the best financially.
something about drinking on the back.
Oh, it says the first time ever I saw her face. That's typically how I met women back then.
What a great memory! I can't believe you remember the title. There's a date back here. Do you want it, or is that not a good idea?
Now go for it.
April 2018. Oh, sorry, 2014.
Yeah, man.
There's a price also. I got a deal.
Okay, cool.
Do you want to see another one?
Well, dude, as long as we're square, you got more. Go for it. So to describe what Mitch showed there, it's a woman and she's drinking a beer, and the piece is called "The First Time Ever I Saw Her Face." How romantic!
Not the face that everyone needs to see. It's these pants.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But she's like a punk prep. I remember that girl.
It's awesome. Now,
It's
do you
good.
remember this one?
Well, that one I do remember, and I love that you have that one. That's actually see, I don't remember the title of that one.
One stormy night.
Okay,
Or
so
no,
that
I'm sorry. On a stormy night.
on a stormy night, but that's I used to I used to call it Drug Fest, but there's this thing called Praia Urbana, and I was a photographer there, and for many years I would it was like an EDM thing,
Oh
and
yeah.
that's one of those go-go girls, and I remember she had the big wig and the umbrella, so that's what that's from.
I
That's cool, you have those.
why I'm pretty sure I bought that one, but I think I
you
used
you
I
traded me
think I
for my
used
boot
it in
space.
advertising. What
You traded me for my boot space on that one,
did
and I
I?
was happy to do that.
Well,
So
I do remember. I think I used it in advertising at some point.
awesome. Yeah, I'm still on the website. Yeah.
Hmm. Oh
Wow.
yeah.
I'm honored.
I looked actually before we started this conversation, and the last market you attended was January 2016.
Yeah. A few days before I moved here, it was
Wow. Oh, that's right.
yeah,
I think you packed up and left from the market to drive out there.
pretty much. I knew I had one last go, so um, and then yeah, when I got here, we were talking before. You said you saw footage of me in a parking lot, and what happened is like I didn't know anyone here, so I went to a bar that was near the museums in Fort Worth. It's the
Mhm.
Grotto, and I had my baby strapped to me, and I had one other artist that I'd met online, and we went in there. He's in a wheelchair, so we roll in, baby strapped to me, guy in the wheelchair, and I asked the bartender, I'm like, hey, can we put out a tent in front of your bar? And that's how my career started here. So,
I
but
love
we've
it.
evolved. We have a whole gallery to ourselves now. 2,800 square feet. It's awesome. And then, but a lot of, especially during this time, I'm really learning to move my work online. I keep shipping it all over the US. It's also helping my local sales too. So it's it's pretty interesting. I'm glad you have a social media person. How savvy are you on that front? Like not
I understand it
mhm.
uh, for my personal use, and I totally get how it works for business or art related. But I don't have the patience. And what I really lacked was somebody at the market who could take pictures, post on the day of the event that we're there. So she's been really good at that. Instagram stories on Instagram and Facebook.
You need to be rattling at that camera. You especially have a lot of knowledge that if you want to share it, it'll help a lot of people.
Well,
Um,
actually, we've been talking about putting together something for artists, specifically kind of combining our skill sets Is that what you're talking about?
As far no, I'm just talking about. Um, I guess I've seen pictures, but I've not seen like if you just talked at the camera while you were at the market, or just had the artist rattle at the camera, and it could be anything really, as long as you're present, it would entice people to get out there more. You
I'll,
know,
I'll give it a go. Sergio Santos says to do it. I think I'll try it.
it's a living, man. I find I find it weird because it's funny because I think people think I just watch myself all the time, but I don't. I record the stuff and I pretend I never did it because this is very weird to me to
That's
be.
me.
Yeah, I don't love it, but I love the results that it gets. To me, it draws people my way, not just that are clients, but other artists I like,
Mm,
other artists that are looking for help sometimes,
right.
and I love doing that. You know, if I can give you something and it helps you grow, cool. So
I do need to talk more, either online or, like you said, just haven't.
yeah,
It it. I don't know. I think I'm in the same category as a lot of the artists who've been doing the market but haven't come back yet. And the reason they tell me is that they just haven't been inspired to paint. They just can't
mm,
pick up a brush. Like, you know,
let me help
I'm
them.
okay. Here we go.
This is the time you should be creating. My theory is that this period of time will create some of the most amazing art because a lot of people are going into studio, and you should not be a part of that. That was a double negative, but yeah.
That makes sense. It works. So you think I've got a face for the camera? It's actually
It
not my
doesn't
face.
matter. It does
Me
not matter.
talking.
The internet doesn't care who you are. They, they don't. I think, um, if anything, people admire it because you become vulnerable. People are looking at us, and that's unsettling. You know, I've never. I was really shy growing up. Believe that, but I was.
No.
Um, but I learned that when I wasn't shy, it got me what I wanted, which was opportunity and dialogue and all of the things that I've been looking. It brought me happiness to connect, and that's what it's about. It's not about how somebody thinks you look or how you think somebody thinks you're gonna look. That doesn't matter.
Actually, I'm not really that concerned about that because
Yeah.
I I wake up and walk out of my house.
Well,
I
man,
have no idea what my hair looks like. Man, I've seen your hair out to here, so
well,
but
especially
it's
after
I
fatherhood.
just freeze. I'm one of those freeze up in when a camera comes on, guys. It's like I'm fine, and all of a sudden there's a red light on. I'm like,
It's practice.
hair.
The more you do it, I still get nervous. Like you saw me try to get started for this podcast. It's like I'm still thinking about it, but you just push through it. It's important, especially during COVID.
True. But you've been painting online. Like, do you still paint live on camera? Like,
What I do is
I'm
I make time lapses.
okay,
Yeah. Um,
because
I
you were
don't
having
like the live thing because I want to connect with the people that get on there, and then that just starts not working. Um, so what I do is I just make a lot of videos. I make sure to comment back. That's all marketing, you know. It's no different than what you do in person. It's just taking care of people on another level. So,
I do like your videos,
oh,
but
well, thanks.
I'll tell you what I'll do. Just for you at the next market, I will do a live or I'll record something. Actually, I need to talk to a few people and have them say hello to you. I think that's what I'll do.
Oh, that's cool, man. I'd love that. I'd love
All
to
right,
see some
that'll be fun.
familiar faces. Like whenever I talk to anybody from Houston, it makes me happy because I do miss all my people there.
We talk about you a lot.
Yeah, well, I hope that's good.
Never. Yeah, that's good. Now we miss you
uh,
too, and I'm
yeah,
glad you can. I hope you can create something. A community of artists in Fort Worth. Also, are you in Fort Worth?
I'm in the middle of Dallas and Fort Worth. I'm in a place called Bedford, and then this is the Hearst Euless Bedford area. So we're
I got
HEB, we're mid cities, and so we are mid cities artists, loud and proud. So, so
cool.
yeah, it is cool. Like, um, it was cool that I was able to make friends that quickly because it's only been 4 years, and that's it seems like longer than that, but
Can you talk about the nonprofit you're working with? Is that
Central Arts. It Our mission we have for the first is artist development, so that includes representation, creating shows, creating opportunities, and we start with that because that creates our leaders in the community. Second is affordable education to the community. The city of Hearst gave us 2,800 square feet. That's our second location. We had we're not open right now because it's tricky. But when we had summer camp, after school programs, all of those programs were $6 a kid, and if they couldn't afford that, we waived it. There's also food programs included in that, and then
nice?
third is community outreach. We go out into the community where it's needed. I've done a lot of work with special needs kids, just wherever somebody could use art. We're there. And then fourth is a belief that all of these things create economic development. So that's what Central Arts is.
I
Um,
like it. That sounds
yeah.
exciting.
Well, what's funny is it just started because I was looking for a place to show.
That's how it
My
is.
first show, I had a little table outside, and eventually they let me in, and then I started to take over things. It's great. I'm just a bully, Mitch.
You're always showing up at the right places, right at the right time.
You know it. I don't know what
Sounds
that
like it.
is. I don't. I think it's that you draw. If you're searching for it, you draw the consciousness that you want. So, because yeah, it's pretty weird. I don't know. I pretty much. I probably feel a little like you do with the things that came your way. I don't.
If,
I don't.
if you're working for it, just keep your eye. Don't worry about the details. Just
Yeah,
keep plugging along, and it'll happen. That's
yeah,
how I see it.
it's true.
I mean, leave the
All right.
details to the universe.
All right, sir. I could pick your brain for days, so I hope you'll be back.
Sure.
And thank you so much for doing this. It's awesome to have a Mitch interview.
Thank you so much. Hey, you tell me this is a conversation. Otherwise, I get nervous, right?
Right. Well, it's not an interview. No.
It's been fun, and it's kind of
Yeah.
funny because we actually haven't seen each other since you left Houston. I don't think
I think I called you once, and I was like,
you were here, but I'm not sure if we saw each other. So this is our first face to
no,
face in 4 years.
yeah, no, I
Wow.
haven't. I haven't seen you. I remember calling you to ask you about market advice because I was starting to create my own markets, create my own opportunities. Because yeah, There was, of course, nothing like First Saturday. There were markets, they would come and go. They were not prepared correctly.
Right now
So,
in the Heights, in the Greater Heights area, there's like 18 markets. Most of them
wow.
are now they're almost all farmer and vendor type, but no art still. Hey, if you need advice for the art markets, call me. You never know what might you might be able to pick out of my brain.
I appreciate that.
But I'm happy to help.
I was taking notes, so, but yeah, for sure. Well, I will take you up on that. I appreciate that.
So tell us where we can see this broadcast.
Oh, well, I mean, they're probably already watching it, but we are on. We are on.
That's right.
Yeah, Spotify, iTunes. That's where we can listen to it. The YouTube channel, artistbebop.com, will take you straight to the
Okay.
To the video versions, and then but I post them on the Facebook fan page, Instagram. Although I think we went over an hour, so it might not be on that one. But yeah, we're around. Tell us where to find First Saturday Arts Market and whatever else you should be plugging.
Well, I have a website called SaturdayArtMarkets.com. That's SaturdayArtMarkets.com, and that goes to the about page for First Saturday Arts Market, and I have information on both markets. And then my personal website is artvalet.com. And basically, I just have snippets and takeouts from my articles that I write, and then whatever else pops up that looks good, I might put on there. Like April Murphy wrote a book, and it's about things overheard or people that heard during COVID or their thoughts about it, and it's fun. But so I posted that. Artvalet.com, SaturdayArtMarkets.com will take you to both art markets.
Do you do Instagram and?
Yeah, and they're all linked on there. So
okay, that'll take you to everything.
Art Valet, you'll find Art Valet everywhere. That's my handle.
There you go.
Well, I guess we better say goodnight to Martin DeVore one more time.
The what now?
We should say goodnight to.
We should shout out Martin DeVore. I wonder if he's watching any of these. I wonder if he cares about me anymore. Martin, if you're out there, I care about you very much. I need to call him more. It's just there's usually screaming toddlers around here.
If it went past his bedtime, we can call him now. But
it's true. But we don't want to.
Thanks so much for having me on the program.
Yeah, man. All right, man. See you next time.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Bebop,